Welcome, everybody. So glad to have you join us today for the Origins of Black History Month with the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce. The Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce is the first and only chamber of commerce for diverse women and non-binary business owners in Canada. And as a chamber of commerce, we represent your needs with the government, and our position and title as a chamber give us access to the people who impact change. And that's why we are so glad to have you here for today's event. And I really just want to take a moment to thank you all for taking time out of your day to be here for this powerful conversation we're about to have. My name is Jenna Clockley. I'm the Director of Membership and Community here at the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce, or CanWCC, as we call it for short. My pronouns are she, her. I live and work on the unceded and unsurrendered lands of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Ojai Cree, the Dakota, and the Dene peoples, and home to the Métis Nation, covered in Treaty 1, colonially known as Winnipeg, Manitoba. The Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce operates out of the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in what is colonially known as Toronto, Ontario. And if you are looking for the Indigenous lands you are on, you can visit native-land.ca for the treaties and the original keepers of what is known today as Canada. And now I am thrilled to introduce you to Lise Manirakiza, the membership coordinator here at the Chamber of Commerce. So some of you may know her. You've seen her in Circle. She sends you DMs. She's all up in your business. She's also the program coordinator for our Flip the Script program. So if you participated with us over there, you definitely have seen Lise around. And I am here today as I had the privilege of seeing Lise present this before, and I know you're in for a really great conversation today and a really great presentation. Lise is an incredible asset to our team, and I know you'll get a lot out of today's event. So thank you so much for being here. And without further ado, take it away, Lise.
Thank you, Jenna, and thank you all for joining. This is, I'm hoping to be a new and series where we're able to have tough conversations that are going to be able to build our knowledge and at the same time build values for our businesses. I also want to say thank you to the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce. Like Jenna said, I've already presented this as a team meeting. This was just supposed to be a small 10-minute presentation as this was Black History Month, but it ended up being such a great conversation in our group that I was asked to present it and extend it to our community and our members, and I'm hoping that it's just as fruitful. So I will start now. I hope everyone can see the screen. Great. Awesome. So welcome to the Origins of Black History Month. Today I'll be talking about how it started, why it's important, and how it's grown into a global movement. We see Black History Month every year on social media, in marketing, in posters outside, but I feel like in the last few years, people have kind of lost the real purpose of Black History Month. And I'm hoping that this will allow you to at least know the history behind it. So Black History Month is observed obviously every February in the United States and Canada, and in October in the United Kingdom. It is more than just a time of remembrance. It serves as a time to recognize the achievements, the struggles, and the contributions of Black individuals throughout history. But where did it all begin? Well, it traces back nearly a century to one man's mission to ensure that Black history was properly recorded and taught. And that man was called Carter G. Woodson. And he's often called the father of Black history. And Carter G. Woodson was born in 1875 to formerly enslaved parents. He grew up in poverty, faced many challenges in accessing education, but he persevered, and he became only the second Black American to earn a PhD from Harvard University after W.B. Du Bois. As a historian, Woodson realized that Black contributions were often ignored or misrepresented in American history books. He believed that if people, and especially Black youth, had access to accurate historical information, it would empower them and it would change the narrative against, or really challenge the racist narrative against them. So in 1915, he founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, and now it's known as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. ASALH. And this organization plays such a crucial role in documenting and promoting Black history even to this day. In 1926, Carter G. Woodson launched Negro History Week. He chose the second week of February to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln, which was on February 12th, and Frederick Douglass, February 14th. And these are two figures who were deeply significant in the fight for Black freedom. And the goal of Negro History Week was to encourage schools, churches, and communities to celebrate Black achievements and to integrate Black history into the education system. While the idea gained traction at that time, it would take decades for it to evolve into the Black History Month that we recognize today. And then if we fast forward to the 1960s, of course, a major time for social and political change during the Civil Rights Movement. You have Black activists and educators that are pushing forward for greater recognition of Black history. And you have universities that are beginning to expand their curricula to include it. And in 1970, students and educators at Kent State University in Ohio, which of course kind of surprised me the first time, became the first to observe Black History Month. Their efforts gained national attention, and in 1976, during the US bicentennial celebrations, President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month. He urged Americans to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected and accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor. And now the idea of dedicating time to honor Black history has not just remained confined to the United States, other countries have followed. You have in Canada, Black History Month officially recognized in 1995, being championed by the Honorable Jean Augustine, who was the first Black woman elected to Canada's parliament. And you have the United Kingdom, who adopted it in 1987, where their focus was more on the history and the contributions of Black people from Africa and the Caribbean. And today, of course, you have other countries like Germany, the Netherlands, and Switzerland that also hold educational programs to recognize Black history. And this expansion shows that the contribution of Black people are an integral part of Black global history. What you may not know is that each year, the Association of the Study of African American Life and History announces a theme for Black History Month. These themes highlight different aspects of Black history and culture. For example, last year's theme was African Americans and the Arts. And it was meant to explore the impact of Black artists, Black musicians, Black writers, Black filmmakers. And themes like this help guide discussions and encourage deeper exploration of Black history beyond the well-known figures like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and etc. And of course, they shed light on overlooked stories and achievements. This year, in the United States, the 2025 Black History Month theme is African Americans and Labor. You may have seen it. A couple of different organizations in Canada and United States are also following the similar theme and their events. And it focuses on the important role Black people have played in shaping history and societies throughout their work. In Canada, because we can't just keep talking about the United States, Canada does have its own program for Black History Month. If we just go back to the recognition, I want to reiterate that it was recognized in December 1995 by Jean Augustine, and the motion was unanimously passed in the House of Commons, making Canada one of the first countries outside the United States to formally acknowledge Black History Month. And in 2008, Senator Donald Oliver, who's at the bottom right, was the first Black man appointed to the Senate, and he introduced a motion to recognize Black History Month in the Senate, making it fully institutionalized in Canada. And in the early days, or really the early Black communities in Canada, we know now that Black history dates back to 400 years, with early records of Black individuals in the 1600s. And Canada was both a place of enslavement and haven for freedom seekers. Slavery existed in New France, Quebec until 1834, where it was abolished across the British Empire. And the Underground Railroad in the early 1800s helped thousands of enslaved Black Americans escape to Canada leading to the information or formation of historic Black communities such as Afriqueville in Nova Scotia, which was a Black settlement in Halifax that was later destroyed, unfortunately, in the 1960s, and Buxton, Ontario, which was a thriving community founded by formerly enslaved people. At the top, you'll see a map, and that indicates many of the traditional and present-day African Nova Scotian communities, which includes the site of Afriqueville, like I mentioned. And unfortunately, like I said, a lot of it has been destroyed for urban development. And at the bottom, you'll see a dollar figure, and that is Viola Desmond. She's a civil rights pioneer who challenged segregation in Nova Scotia in 1946. We have as well Josiah Henson. He was a former enslaved person who escaped Canada and founded the Dawn Settlement. We have Rosemary Brown, the first Black woman elected to a provincial legislature in Canada and British Columbia, and then Lincoln Alexander, Canada's first Black member of Parliament and first Black lieutenant governor of Ontario. The reason I mention this is because we know so many key figures in like American Black history, South African Black history, but we don't know who these people are in our own country. As I was doing the research for this presentation is when I found out, for example, who Josiah Henson was, who Rosemary Brown was, and I think, in my opinion, that's unfortunate and problematic. And then, of course, in Canada, we have our own theme for Black history that is separate from the United States. Unlike the United States, this one is provided and decided by the government of Canada and through Canadian Heritage in collaboration of course, Black community leaders and organization. And this theme's year is Black legacy and leadership, celebrating Canadian history and future generation. So it's very much on brand with CanWCC. We are celebrating Black history. I do want to still dig deep into the critiques of Black History Month, and this is kind of where we're going to be discussing as well later on. But Black History Month has had quite a bit of critiques from the Black community in the last maybe 10, 15 years. The number one is tokenism and superficial acknowledgement. I shouldn't say we, pardon me. Many critics argue that Black History Month has led to performative activism, where corporations, schools, and institutions make symbolic gestures without real action. And examples include social media statements without policy changes and like one-time events, instead of sustained commitment to addressing systemic racism. At the top, you'll see an image of last year, the ad featuring the Quebec Liberal Party. They had the genius idea to assemble 8 white members of their party in a Pan-African full-page color ad to honor Black History Month. This is happening right here. It seems ridiculous, but this was last year. In 2022, we had Bath and Body Works that had a limited release edition, released a Black History Month collection featuring candles, lotions, fragrances, etc. And they decided to do the packaging for the products with the art of traditional African mud cloth. And to make it worse, there was a watermelon scented candle. And of course, you all remember in 2020, unfortunately, following the police killing of George Floyd, the hashtag Blackout Tuesday came out, and then we saw Instagram being flooded with Black squares, not only from like individuals, but also companies who aim to demonstrate their solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. And to me, sometimes I find it performative. And it makes me question where the line is and if this is not just capitalistic exploitations. But there are solutions, of course. We can advocate for like organizations can advocate for long-term investment in Black communities. They can include corporate diversity initiatives. They can fund Black-led organizations, and they can do equitable hiring practices. The second critique is a call for a year-round integration. You know, some argue that confining Black history to February marginalizes as a niche topic rather than integrating into mainstream education. And studies show that kindergarten to 12 curricula often overlook Black contributions outside of Black History Month. So this just reinforces the idea that Black history is separate from national history. And another solution for this would be having educators push for curriculum reforms that incorporate Black history throughout the school year, ensuring that Black contributions are taught as an integral part of history, politics, science, and arts, so that we're able to know our leaders. We're able to know the historic Black Canadians. Like I just said, many of us, I assume, didn't know who the previous people I spoke of were. And of course, the repetitive narratives and limited representation. So everywhere I see it's always a focus on a small number of figures. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, and this overshadows the vast contributions of other Black leaders, scientists, artists, and thinkers. And this selective storytelling can lead to a very simplistic idea and an incomplete understanding of Black history. And the solution to this is just advocate and encourage highlighting lesser known historical figures and do the research. So what is going on down south and why does it matter to us? As you all know, there's been some federal rollbacks on diversity. In just this month, we've seen President Donald Trump issue an executive ordering dismantling federal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And this has led to the suspension of Black History Month observances in several federal agencies in the United States. We know that the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, under Secretary Pete Hegseth, has declared an end to Identity Months. So this has ceased official observations of Black History Month and similar observances. And of course, unfortunately, Google has decided to remove cultural events, including Black History Month, from its default calendar settings. I think they cited things like challenges in maintaining a sustainable list of global culture moments. I think somebody can explain it to me because I didn't understand it. And it really does matter for Canada. And I've highlighted only 3 reasons, but there are so many more. The first one is the influence on Canadian policies and attitudes. We forget that the US often sets cultural and political trends that influence us. If anti-DEI policies gain traction in the United States, similar arguments are going to be used. I would say could be used, but I know they're going to be used in Canada to challenge diversity initiatives, funding for Black-led organizations, and the inclusion of Black history in schools. The second one is corporate and institutional impact. Many multinational companies operate in both countries. And if US-based corporations reduce their Black History Month initiatives on diversity programs, it could trickle into their Canadian branches, and that's affecting funding. That's affecting hiring practices and representation in leadership. And unfortunately, just social and online influence. A lot of anti-DI rhetoric spreads through social media. So that influences public opinion beyond borders. And if people in Canada start echoing these arguments, it could lead to some resistance against the efforts that, frankly, our Canadian government has been pushing to highlight Black history and address systemic racism here. So basically the bottom line is, even though Black History Month isn't technically under direct attack in Canada today, these global trends can shape public discourse and policy decisions. So you have to stay informed. It helps ensure that progress on racial equity isn't reversed. And though I do criticize sometimes a lot of what I see on Black History Month, you can't deny the fact that since its inception, it has had a profound impact on education and cultural awareness. Many schools now incorporate Black history into their curriculum year-round, not just in February. You have universities that have developed African American studies programs, or African studies outside of the United States. I've seen this around the world. And also Black History Month has just inspired similar heritage months, such as the Indigenous History Month and Hispanic Heritage Month. So Black History Month it has a purpose as not just a reminder of history, but that history is not complete without the recognition and the voices of Black people. And as a conclusion and a call to action, I just want to remind you all that Black history is about education. Above anything, it's about education. And yes, it's about celebration and action, but I really, really believe it's about education. I encourage everyone to do the continuous learning beyond February, and I suggest that we honor Black history, whether it's reading, supporting Black-owned businesses, attending events, and of course, I can't stress this enough, go vote. Go vote. If DEI is important for you, whether it's for Black people, whether or anti-racism, or for women's rights, go vote. It's very important. And this is just a few recommendations that I have before we start a discussion, because I encourage reading and I encourage Black authors or Black art. The first one is Hood Feminism. The Notes from Women That a Movement Has Forgotten by Mickey Kendall. It's a very easy read into intersectional feminism. And the second one is, if you've got the strength for it, it's called The Love Songs of W.B. Du Bois by Honoré Fanone, Jeffers. And this was one of my favorite books last year, but it is a very, very deep book. It has a lot of complicated subjects. It has a lot of trauma. It deals with not just sexism, deals with racism, rape. So if you've got the strength for it, I really, really recommend that you have this book. And of course, American Fiction. This is a movie written and directed by Cord Jefferson. This movie is a perfect example of what Black tokenism is and the ridiculousness, or how ridiculous it is, or it's become. And it's a funny movie, but it's really, really hit the mark of why people want to exploit the Black experience. So I really, really highly recommend it.